Welcome to Hive Mind with Edge and Speaker. We're going to have a talk today about the failures of the Afghanistan withdrawal and the implications it's going to have in the region, in America, and around the world. But first, how you doing, Speaker?
I'm good. You went straight into it. Look at her. She's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm all
I,
business
I,
today.
I know, right? I've been away for a while. No nice introduction. It was just straight into the Taliban. Look
Let's do it. Yeah, yeah.
at this. Um, it's interesting what you said before the failure. I mean, is it a failure? How can you fail something that at the beginning really didn't have a stated goal? It's
Right.
it's one of those things, right? So at the moment, what we're seeing is the end of a 20-year war that has claimed the lives of, and this is only by the statistics that we know, 60,000 Afghan military, over 60,000 civilians. Um, Last I checked, it was around 3,500 to 5,000 coalition troops, and half of them being American. So this is a failure in a sense, but like I said before, it's not a failure in a way that, this didn't have a stated goal because this war was never about protecting the American people, freeing the Middle East from tyranny, women's rights, or to usher in some sort of liberal democratic society in Afghanistan. No, this.
Or to get Osama bin Laden. I mean, it should have been as soon as we found out that Osama bin Laden wasn't in Afghanistan that we would withdrew immediately. But no, we stayed there and it was all about nation building. And the American people were sold this package of we're stabilizing the area, we are going to, sort of westernize this part of the world. And yeah, it was a complete failure. But I think that American people are coming to realize that we were kind of lied to all along. And I think that there is a segment of the population that kind of already knew that. But I would say just the general masses may not have realized that but they're starting to realize that now.
I mean, this war from the start, um, it could never have been won, and it was never intended to. And people need to kind of get their heads around it. It was never intended to be won. Like you said, it wasn't revenge for 9/11 to stop evil or to capture bin Laden. It was a geopolitical strategy to rip up resources. Uh, I'm talking mostly about poppies here. Let's not forget the drug trade, just like Iraq. It was to test new weapons, discard old ones, to get experience for the military industrial complex, and to completely destabilize regions. And America has done this for a very long time. And let's not forget to mention a huge giant slush fund where a hammer costs $500 and a sheet of metal costs 10,000, making a shit ton of money for these companies that are supporting this war, not just in the US.
Right. And I think that people are coming to the realization, not just with Afghanistan, but over the past couple of years, especially, that there is just a uniparty, and this uniparty does seek to prop up the military industrial complex. And this Afghanistan situation really just illustrates that. But when we talk about the withdrawal, I mean, the way this withdrawal was handled was just a total and complete failure. And it's easy to say that Biden is such a bumbling buffoon and our military leaders are just a bunch of woke Marxists who are more worried about labeling their political enemies in America as terrorists, that this was just a failure and chalk it up to complete incompetence. But I think it's just much more than that. I think that the people at the very top in America actually hate America and want to see us fall. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, I mean, hasn't that always kind of been the thing that we've been fighting against for the last couple of years? Is this elite strategy to destroy America from the inside out?
Right. Well, we
Um,
should play that clip about of Biden and just prior to
well,
the
this. this was a couple of months ago, I think, or a month ago. I'm not sure, but it was pretty soon before all this happened. But let's take a listen.
What you have just seen in Afghanistan. You said this just a month ago. Afghan troops have 300,000 well equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable. The likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. And, the Pentagon leaders were saying this just a few days ago, just last weekend.
Yeah, the old.
So, and same with the intelligence community, and all of them either were totally incompetent or they had ill intentions. They intended for this debacle to unfold the way that it has. And that's my argument. I believe that's the case. Let's talk about the massive stockpile of equipment and guns that the Taliban has seized. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, they've got tanks, trucks, drones, guns, huge, massive stockpiles of guns, rocket launchers. The Taliban is very, very well equipped now to cause complete chaos and destruction.
Isn't this funny? They leave all this stuff around, but at the same time, at home, they don't want you to have more than 10 bullets in your house to protect yourself. But yeah, we'll just leave tanks all across the Middle East. That's fine. But and what we're seeing now is a seizure of what. It's kind of weird because it's kind of what Biden all wants to do to Americans. They want to go around, they want to take your guns door to door. We're seeing that now in Afghanistan. They're doing that. They're taking around, and not just guns. The Taliban is going full force.
Right. The Taliban is actually telling the people, you do not need any weapons. We will protect you. Right. Yeah, right. So they are seizing the weapons from the citizens as well. And you know what happens when any regime, especially a totalitarian one such as this, what it seems like it would be, what happens after the guns are seized? Just complete mass genocide. And I think that we're going to see some even more horrific scenes coming out of Afghanistan in the near future because of all of this, because of the weaponry and the stockpile that was left behind of supplies for them. Completely unguarded. It's just a disgrace. But treasure trove, yeah.
Really
then there was the release of the Taliban terrorist prisoners. I think it's on the next tab. Yeah, so not only did they get, this huge stockpile, but they also got all of their troops back. The terrorists that were imprisoned, they're released, they're free to wreak havoc. And you have to remember that the leader of this Taliban takeover of Kabul was a terrorist that Obama freed from Guantanamo and traded for that traitor Bergdahl. That's on the next tab over.
He was in there for 8 years.
Yeah, so to me, when you add all of this up, it looks more and more clear that this is not looking like incompetence. It's looking like they're intentionally providing arms and support to the Taliban to allow them to become more powerful with the help of top leaders in our own country.
It's a solid theory, and it would not surprise me because I know you've just spent some time digging on this. She goes straight head first into it.
Well, you have to consider the type of people who've been running the country, not in the past couple of decades, and not including Trump. He was he was unexpected for their plans. But when you look at Obama and all that he has done, and then now what Biden is doing, and Bush
we can go back all the way back to Bush.
Yes. Yeah, of course. But it all is kind of leading into this direction. And you can see their moves and how they're calculated, that things that may look like botched withdrawals really, to me, more look like they were planned to create chaos. And that's exactly what we're seeing unfold. Did you see the shocking footage of those refugees trying to escape the
Yeah.
country?
No, that's I don't know if we have footage, but yeah, it
We do.
shows you exactly how desperate
First, we have to
some of
look at the
these
press,
people
though.
are.
Let's talk about, go to that Gab post right there, the
Yeah,
next one over. Let's talk about the press and how they're handling this. I mean, give me a break. Did you see this?
I did not. Let's have a look.
Oh, you've got to see
People
it. It's
come
so
up to
funny.
them to pose for photographs. They're just chanting "Death to America," but they seem friendly at the same time.
Oh my God.
Totally bizarre.
Fiery, but mostly peaceful Death to America chants.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable the way that the press is covering this in most cases. And I'll give
In
some
most.
exceptions. Yeah,
Um,
I'll give some exceptions.
well, a lot of Western media has turned against Biden at the moment. I showed you some stuff from Australia the other day, which you definitely didn't expect to hear from their mouths. When they see what's happening to these people, especially at the airport, how desperate these people must be to get out of there, because they know what Taliban brings with them: death, destruction, murder, rape. It's it's coming. It's there, right?
Yeah,
It's a
we've got
very
some
sad
footage.
reality.
Go to the next tab over. We got
This
some
one is it?
footage. Yeah, this is they were being fired at, shot at. I mean, first of all, there were traffic jams just to get to the airport. Then people get to the airport, they're getting shot at, they're running towards these planes, and it's just a horrific scene. The next one over is the really probably the most iconic scene that's going to be played throughout history when people recall this event, of just thousands of people running alongside of the Air Force plane. And just it's absolutely horrific. There were people that were standing on parts of the plane as the plane took off. And I saw even images of people hanging onto the plane in midair. It's just absolutely horrific. The Biden regime couldn't even secure this airport. Tells you what a
It's
complete failure.
and like I think we also got to bring up because Trump did say it initially, and I think 90%, and not just Americans but the world, wanted our army forces out of conflict. They did. That's not the issue here. The issue is how it was handled,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And the fact that you were there for 20 years and yet it took the Taliban 3 days
Right.
to take it
Exactly.
all back. What did you
Yeah.
do?
Exactly. And it's not like they didn't know this was going to happen. They were getting warnings for months from people on the ground in the embassy. They, they ignored all of them, which again leads me to believe that this entire mess was intentional. So now there's thousands of Afghan refugees headed to America and other parts of the world, as well as thousands of Americans and refugees still stuck there. And they're under extremely dangerous conditions. And Biden's saying he can't even guarantee their safety. Of course he can't.
Hmm.
He is feckless along with the military leaders. It's a national disgrace at this point.
Oh, because once again, Biden doesn't know what's going on.
No, he
He
doesn't.
is the sort of person that sits down at the table, listens to the people that really running the country, which is the military-industrial complex, which is big banks, elites, corporations, and they're all giving him advice and telling him what to say. So he's just really just spitting that out of his mouth.
Right.
Right?
So here we are.
This is very funny.
These people are just under extreme conditions here, and this picture is probably another one of those iconic images that we will remember forever. Of course, you have the UN Sustainable Goals 2030 agenda painted on the walls. It's like their intentions the globalists' intentions just right there on display on the wall, and then right in front of it is the reality of what happens with the Taliban taking over. And it's just really, really speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah. These people are not even close to one. And you want to try to get them all the way there. It's so unrealistic and just insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So we're importing this chaos along with these refugees, which again is by design. So who stands to gain from all of this? I mean,
more cultural enrichment.
yeah,
Europe to USA to Australia. Yep.
Yeah, well, we can look at what happened to Minnesota since they've become a haven for refugees, right? I mean, they have the highest per capita number of refugees in the United States, and we know how well that's worked out for them. I mean, just ask Elon Omar, right? So if part one of the Biden regime's plan is to destabilize Afghanistan and that region, then part two would be to repeat what they've done in Minnesota and just repeat it in other parts of the country. And there are, as far as I know, at least 9 states, Republican and Democrat, that have expressed willingness to accept Afghan refugees. There are some posts that some governors made on Twitter on the next few tabs over, speaker, that you can go through. But here's the list: Massachusetts, Maryland, Virginia, California, South Carolina, Utah, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Georgia have all expressed an interest in providing safe haven for Afghan refugees. And I understand their plight, but here's my question. I have a couple questions here. My questions are, how will these people be vetted before they're just turned out into society? I mean, are they cross-referencing any database of known terrorists? I'm thinking not.
Absolutely not.
Right. And if this regime is so concerned about COVID, of course, everything's all about COVID. Is there going to be any sort of checking of that, or is it just going to be like the southern border where we just let people pour in?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can see how they're just importing chaos by design. And, when I think about who stands to gain the most out of all of this, it's pretty simple to me. It's China. China stands to gain the most of this. I mean, China owns Biden, and his handlers operate him. He's just a stooge. So all of this seems orchestrated by China, not the withdrawal itself. I mean, we should have done this a long time ago. But again, as we just went over, is that it's not the withdrawal itself, it's the timing and the manner of which it was done. And now China can just roll out their Belt and Road Initiative full steam in that region. And it appears that some deals were made because, look, I mean, we have here Taliban leaders meeting with Chinese leaders just a few weeks ago. So maybe there was some kind of agreement that was struck, like, we're going to leave behind this massive stockpile of guns, ammo, trucks, tanks, drones, rocket launchers, you name it, if you just leave us alone so we can mine in the region and do whatever the heck we want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Biden is going to stand out of the way because he's owned by China. So
that's just a scary photo in itself.
Right.
It's and how's this going to play out? Are we going to see a repeat of what we saw? Like during 9/11? So we're going to get this influx of refugees? Are we going to have another attack on American soil? Are we going to go back to Afghanistan again?
Right. And perpetuate the military industrial complex again.
Repeating this.
repeating. And
Right.
it's no wonder that just a few weeks ago, or actually maybe it was a week ago, that DHS put out that bulletin that not only are half of America who, are questioning the election and COVID restrictions, those are now considered terrorists. And we don't have any specific information on that, but we're just looking out for that. But also 9/11 is actually another day that we need to look out for because, hey, maybe we know ahead of time that there is something that's going to happen, or that, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it
no, I
just
got
seems like you didn't have the intelligence to know that the Taliban was going to take over in a matter of days,
of course
but
did.
you do have the intelligence that there is legitimate plans for an attack on the anniversary of 9/11. Okay.
The intelligence that they have in Afghanistan now should be the best that they have in the world. It's an active war zone, right? Once again, it can be put down to, like you said, is it complete incompetence? I don't think so. I can't see it being that way. The fact of the amount of intelligence that you would have there. I mean, you knew this was coming up the pipeline. You knew
Yeah,
this was in place. It was ready.
it
You don't
looks all
you don't
manipulated,
you don't take a
preconceived.
country in 3 days to a week without pre-planning.
Right. Yeah, it's this entire thing. The intelligence failure does not seem like a failure to me. It seems like it's entirely manipulated to have the outcome that they want, just full on chaos and destruction. The other way that China is taking advantage of this is the optics of it, because, they're using this as an opportunity to tell the world, look, America's weak and untrustworthy. So no one fears or respects the America now because of this regime that's owned by China. So China's just doing whatever it wants, and including going after Taiwan. And they're making some bold moves as this week. If you'll go over to the next tab, I mean, they're really using this to their advantage and strategically in order to gain a foothold in taking over Taiwan. And I think it's clear that China does have plans to make a move on Taiwan soon. What do you think?
They've been slowly creeping on Taiwan for a while. From the start of the year, actually, when was the last time I was looking at it? Probably since the start of the Biden administration, China started pushing boundaries in their flight zones on Taiwan. They went from 1 plane to 2 planes to 3 planes to just see how much they could keep getting across. They're doing the same with boats, not just in Taiwan, but in Australia as well. They're putting battle cruisers into our oceans, into our seas. They're trying to see how far they go before they can get some sort of pushback, and then they'll turn around. This is all testing the waters. This is all seeing how much they can get done without any sort of resistance or any sort of response.
Right.
I mean, Taiwan's not in it's in a position to respond really, but countries like Australia and all that are,
Right. If next tab over, you'll look there as of this week running some operations, uh, warships, fighter jets conducting drills near Taiwan. And this is, just as of this week. And of course, this is nothing new, but this is like reinvigorating their plans for Taiwan, which just seem to be building and building. And again, I think you're right with testing the waters just to see how far they can go without the United States doing anything. And China is saying, look, United States isn't going to come and save you. They're not trustworthy. They're weak. Look what happened in Afghanistan. So you are not going to be able to get anything from the United States. And I could see this going both ways. Either Biden steps aside because he's a puppet for China anyways, and he just lets China move in on Taiwan, or there's a pre-planned, orchestrated kinetic warfare in Taiwan. Either way, China stands to gain. And Biden is just doing the bidding of whatever China is asking, whichever scenario it ends up being. What do you think?
Oh no, I think that is more likely than complete incompetence. I can't, I can't see these people being this stupid. Like, it's just, they plan these things for a very long time. They're very good at the long game. I mean, you think about it, really, America hasn't fought wars to actually been won since 45. Like, think about it. They just came there to stabilize places and left. Made them money, catch some checks.
Right. It's a tough pill to swallow
It is.
because so many of our young men and women have fought and died believing in the American dream and believing that what they were doing was noble and honorable. And to wake up to this realization in many cases, especially with Afghanistan, I know that a lot of people who have served are just absolutely
Oh,
livid with the way that this has ended up.
yeah, there was an article that I saw the other day, and I should have brought it up, but I don't have it on me at the moment. And the title of that article was, "Why Did My Friend Get Blown Up?"
Yeah.
Right? And that's the reality of it. I've got a few friends that fought in Afghanistan. I have friends that are really messed up because of that conflict, right? They're really in bad shape. They've never been the same since they came back from that war zone, right? So it is so, it pisses me off, and as it should piss anyone off. And the fact that, in your case, half of the casualties when it came to military happened on the American side. It's like, 1,500 of your soldiers, of your citizens that have died for nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, I know that's how so many people who have served feel right now.
Hmm.
Just betrayed,
Oh,
betrayed by their own country.
they're livid, and they should be. They really
Yeah.
should be. Right?
So the last thing that I want to bring up is to say that there's just a lot of talk and calls for Biden to be removed from office over all of this. And even foreign leaders are speaking out about Biden's incompetence on this situation. And of course, I agree, but he never should have been put in this office to begin with. But I think this may also be part of the cabal's plan. Because after all, when you think about it, we all knew Biden was just a seat filler, right? Just for a short period of time, we all knew that he wasn't going to be even lasting for the full 4 years, if, whatever case scenario. But we all knew he was just a seat filler for these people, and they would be replacing him at the first chance that they had. And this seems like it might be that chance. So, not that a President Kamala would be any better. It would actually be much, much worse. But I kind of foresee that as a possibility. What do you think?
Oh God, don't even make me say it. Why would you do that? Why would you
Right?
bring
You're
that?
gonna have nightmares.
Why would you bring that into the ether? It's terrible.
I'm just trying to predict their plans and their next moves. I actually think that this might be their reason for justifying the switch, which we always knew there was going to be a switch, right? So this might be their reason for trying to do that. Of course, we have our own plans, and it's all about the audits. And I think that when you talk about how the timing of this whole thing happening, it does seem like the timeline was pushed up, and maybe it was to distract from certain things that we're trying to do on our side to right the ship. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah, it's just a horrible situation to see how much of a failure, or like we said at the start, non-failure this was, and just the on both sides, on the soldiers that went there and fought, for the families that went through their stress, for their loved ones, for people that have lost loved ones, and for the innocent Afghanis that are going through what you're seeing now. Um, It is. It's horrible. But having said that as well, like you said, with this mass immigration, and that is something I was very happy about hearing the other day on Australian television, because ours is at the moment 100% propaganda on the virus and Afghanistan. That's all that's going on at the moment. Australian television is just strictly on those two things, 24 hours a day. So it's just continuous propaganda on those two subjects, mostly on the virus. But they actually came out and talked the other day about um, the refugee situation and how, if any do come to Australia, and in what way, they need to be very selectively picked and they need to be very heavily vetted. And I was actually very happy to see that as like one good thing in about a year that I've heard from them.
Take the wins when you can find them, right?
I know, right? They're hard to find. Gotta grab them.
All right, all right. So I think that just about wraps up everything I wanted to say on the subject.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we're going to be seeing some more coming out of Afghanistan, and really how this is going to affect not just that region, but other plays and moves being made around the world, and as well as internally in our own country. So thanks, guys, for joining us here today on Hive Mind. Please be sure to share this podcast. We're on YouTube, BitChute, Pilled, and Foxhole. And we'll see you back next time right here on Hive Mind.